Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about DCKO Knightfight issue 3 by Joshua Williamson, Dan Mora and Triona Farrell. Batman's quest to fight his family continues as, thanks to Jason Todd being convinced Bruce is actually Clayface, Batman is able to transform into the villain, grabbing Jason and trying to subdue him. Still trying to convince his now older son that he actually isn't the real Clayface and is actually Batman. Jason manages to electrocute Bruce, causing him to loosen his grip on Jason, but doing so causes the hero to fall from the rooftop. Batman knows that he is being forced to fight his family to the death, but he refuses to play by the Heart of Apocalypse's rules, using his clay powers to extend his arm and grab Jason, pulling him back up onto the roof. Bruce using the Heart's rules against it and not playing by the rules is something I wish we got from the start, not just the end of the last issue, and technically we kind of did, since he did have the apocalyptic armor that allowed him to survive being eliminated from the tournament, but it just felt like this was kind of like a shift where he's kind of realized what was going on and he needed to not play by the rules, whereas Batman really never plays by the rules anyway. And Joshua Williamson does get a real cheeky and has a way to have the idea of Batman never actually playing by the rule be the core concept behind this. This is all happening because he never plays by the rule. And writing the story around that is a really cool idea, being that some writers actually use it as a lazy way to kind of have Batman have just like a deus ex machina, like he's always got a plan for every situation he's ever in, but now that's the actual story. And it's coming back to bite him in the ass. Jason can't believe that Bruce just saved him, believing the thing in front of him really believes he is Batman. Bruce knows that Jason did something he never could, since while he considers himself a loner, it's a lie since he never really is alone, as he had Jason, Tim, Dick, Damian and everyone else, but Jason is actually a truly alone Batman. Jason still believes that Batman isn't actually Batman, but Bruce doesn't care if he thinks he's Bruce or Basil. He's still going to stay there with Jason and help him out of this world. Jason actually calms down and begins to consider Bruce's words, but is interrupted by the Heart of Apocalypse, whose black void appears out of nowhere, screaming that Batman cheated. The Heart traps Batman, pulling the hero into the void and leaving Jason behind alone on his domed-off world. Man, I really love when a writer writes a self-aware Batman, a Batman who is aware he has faults and isn't this thing that so many people make him out to be, this bat god. In fact, here he doesn't even like the idea of the loner Batman, which a lot of people seem to really like, and he wants to make sure that Jason doesn't have to be that anymore. I feel like that is proper Batman, wanting to make it so that others don't have to be Batman or don't feel the need that they have to be Batman. He's trying this mission against crime to end crime and to stop the idea of that there should be a Batman. Bruce tells the Heart that he's done with its games, refusing to fight his children. Angered at the thought that the hero refuses to do what it is telling him to do, the Heart decides to show Bruce what's been going on in the tournament since he was eliminated, showing him visions of the various fights along with a revelation that Joker is winning the tournament. Now, Joker did win a match. He won the last of the 8-round matches, but so did Superman, Aquaman, Guy Gardner, so he's no more ahead of the other contestants as the others. You know, they're all very equal and they're all at the next stage. I do think this is probably the Heart just kind of fucking with Bruce a little bit and making it so he thinks that all is lost unless he does what he is told. Also, the meta commentary about the Heart just being one of those types of fans who think the only thing these books should be doing is action figures being smashed together instead of, you know, having a little bit of actual character development is all there, and it's not like the writers are being subtle about it either. The Heart is acting like a petulant child when it doesn't get its way, or the character doesn't do what it wants them to do. I mean, we saw this with fans when there was the Jason and Joker fight. You know, Jason's whole deal with that fight was him knowing that he had no intention of winning the tournament whatsoever and knew he couldn't. So instead, he would just try and get revenge on the Joker for what the Joker did to him and his life. And he did exactly that. And people were pissed at it because it wasn't action figures clacking together and big explosions and all of that. It's been something that has been through all of these tie-ins, all of those All Fight Month books, and in the main DCKO book, that the Heart is a sort of meta commentary on those type of fans that just want that from an event like this. But the event is being so much more and actually doing proper character development for some of these characters and actually pushing their stories forward. The Heart says that it was punishing Bruce for cheating and bringing the Apocalyptic armor with him, but he won't stop cheating or breaking the rules, so he wants to make a deal with Batman, telling the hero that if he beats his challenge, he will let him return to the tournament, but he will find the next challenge is far more challenging, since he will test him in ways that aren't just physical, and it will test his mind and heart. Elsewhere, Tim Drake, now much older and acting as Batman, calls various suspects into his parlor, telling them that he has uncovered the killer, knowing full well that the police suspect that Mrs. White is behind it because of who her real father is, but most of them there also suspect Mr. Green because he tried to cover up his many other past crimes. Batman doesn't believe it's any of that, and the person who killed Dalton Glory is in the room with them. Tim's Batman just being Sherlock Holmes in a mask and hyper-focused on the detective side of the Batman persona is exactly what I knew it would be, and it rules. It would be great to see more of this Batman story, you know, a Batman doing kind of old school murder mystery stories with groups of people trying to figure out who the killer is, kind of, you know, a Knives Out situation. Also, his batsuit just goes so hard. I love it. It's that perfect shade of blue, yellow, and grey. And I love the little vents it has on the ears as well. Reminds me of Val Kilmer's second batsuit, which also had them. Tim's speech causes the true killer to grab one of the patrons and hold a knife to his throat, telling Batman that he's too smart for his own good, and it will be the death of him someday. Before the man can kill anyone, Batman activates his holographic batarangs, sending out a hard light construct of a bat that attacks the man before knocking the man down with his yellow staff, commenting how this is the first time he's had to resort to fisticuffs in a long while. The killer is arrested and the group thank Batman for his job well done, knowing Gotham is safe because of him and there isn't a single open or cold case left and every mystery has been solved. Batman leaves knowing there's one case he never ended up solving, the death of Bruce Wayne. Tim heads back to the new and improved Batcave, getting a call from Stephanie Brown, who tells him that her and Cassandra caught Owlwoman. Tim is glad that they did it without him, but Steph still thinks that he sounds a little smug, hoping that he will come and celebrate with them. Tim refuses, but Steph doesn't give up, wanting him to come out and live a little, since maybe even he can call up Bernard and talk with him again. Tim's mind is somewhere else completely though, telling Steph that he'll call her back as he notices something wrong with the Bat computer. So this is the first time of all of these Batman we've actually gotten kind of a sense of their lives as Batmen. We got glimpses of it with Dick and how he kind of took over the entire world with the Titans, but this feels a little bit more personal and intimate. We get to see this high-tech, clean Batcave, hints that Tim is rather distant from everyone else in the Bat family, even Bernard, and it's all because he's let Batman consume him and he never wants to stop. Fantastic storytelling, especially since this is all conveyed in a single page. Tim checks the Bat computer and finds a code in binary left by someone who has seemingly hacked the Bat computer, something Tim knows hasn't happened in a very long time. Tim gets to work trying to stop the hack, finding whomever is doing it is good, but he is better. He finds the hacker is trying to get into the old case files as one of his Bat robots come to life, attacking him. Batman dives out of the way, tossing his hologram batarangs at the robots as they try and tell Tim to stop and listen. One of the robots reveals that it is Bruce, but not the same one Tim knows, making Tim think that this is just some rogue AI that has been sent to infect his systems and kill him. The last remaining robot tells Tim about the time when he was 14 and he broke into the Batcave, since he thought that Bruce needed a Robin. The robot tells him that he used to dream about his father's death, something that Tim knows no one actually knows except Bruce. Bruce soon appears in hologram form, telling Tim that he's been trapped in his computers for a few days, and in that time he saw his case files and what type of Batman Tim has become, wanting Tim to know how proud he is of him. I'm loving how Bruce still isn't playing the Heart's game and not actually fighting his sons. He's still trying to get through to them without violence and instead recognizing them as the men they are, which I feel is what all of these guys kind of want in their core deep down. They want Bruce to see them as equals and worthy heirs to the Bat mantle, even if they don't want to admit it. Bruce says that Tim is smarter than he ever could have imagined and a better Batman than he ever was. Tim reacts with rage, asking Bruce if he's so smart and better, then why could he never solve Bruce's murder? Bruce knows it's actually quite a simple answer. Tim didn't want to solve it. Tim turns off his cowl, revealing his aged and scarred face, telling Bruce not to patronize him since Bruce was a great detective, but he never took him as a great therapist. Bruce tells him that he had all the clues to solve the murder, but he never let himself do it, since then Bruce would be really dead, and he held onto that mystery in order to hold onto the memory of Bruce. Tim, however, thinks it's more simple and more he just wanted to solve one last case with Bruce. Now that's a really neat take on Tim's Batman, one who could never really move on and refused to do it since it would mean Bruce is truly gone and he couldn't go to Bruce for help, or he wouldn't be around and there wouldn't be a quote-unquote better Batman out there. There would just be him as Batman. So I don't know if Joshua Williamson has alluded to which Robin is his favorite, but I do get the feeling that Tim might be his favorite just because this is just so thoroughly interesting. All of this stuff about Tim and his take on Batman being the more detective and the way he operates and what we've seen here, it just shows that there is some care put into this story, and I'd want to see more of this Tim and his life and his journey to be this Batman. It's just all so compelling. Tim tells Bruce that he didn't want to solve the crime since he didn't have Bruce there with him, and he wanted to solve one more case with Bruce, so Bruce humors him, calling up the footage of the Batcave at the time of Batman's death, wanting Tim to look close at Batman's utility belt and what is missing. Tim realizes what he missed, knowing exactly who killed him. So we actually don't learn who the killer is here. Their name is not actually said. It's someone that both Bruce and Tim seemingly know, and I kind of like that. It's still a mystery to us, reader. The death of Batman, it's a big mystery. I quite like that it was left with, no, we're not going to learn who the killer is, because it really does not matter, because this is all a fake world, so it does not matter who killed Batman in this world, since it didn't actually happen. Bruce knows that they need to go now and they can catch the killer, and Tim excitedly tells Bruce that they will upload him into one of the robots again, and then after the killer is caught, they'll figure out how to get him out of the computers. Before they can do that though, Bruce screams as the heart zaps him away again, leaving Tim to collapse on the floor, knowing he doesn't know if he can do this without Bruce. The Heart angrily tells Bruce that he was meant to fight Tim, not help him, but Bruce again refuses to play its games, finding the Heart is mad that he beat its tests his own way. The Heart decides that it's just going to break Batman, knowing that it can show him the different versions of Batman he will face and make them all want to kill Batman, but it wants to do it a different way. So this is the only panel and only page in the entire storyline where we get to actually see the other Batman outside of Dick, Jason, Tim, and Damian. And I really wish we had gotten to see, Duke Thomas's Batman, Azrael's proper Batman, or a Barbara Gordon who has taken over the main Bat hero persona. Feels like so many missed opportunities to explore the Bat family outside of the quote-unquote main family. And there are just so many decisions you could go. You could do Azrael, the Batman, the Bat's son who never was. Jace Fox as the Batman no one asked for. There's just so many cool directions you could have taken this, and Bruce interacting with all these characters would have been so cool. But it sucks they just stuck with the safe bets, the bets we have seen before. The Heart tells Bruce that it warned him as Bruce wakes up as an older, beardier man, finding himself in Gotham, but not in the mansion or the brownstone, but in Crime Alley, which looks alive with people and safe and clean. Bruce wonders how this is even possible since he's never seen the city look like this, and Damian, a much older Damian that is, arrives, telling Bruce that he saved Gotham and he was only able to do this because of what his father taught him. And while he started on his father's path, he also started down his own path, and now Gotham doesn't need a Batman anymore. Bruce wants to talk to Damian, but he stops his father, knowing the world isn't real and he is seeing the cracks in reality, and whomever made this world made him too smart and too much like what he imagines the real him is like. Damian is well aware of the Omega tournament happening and knowing Bruce is real and this is just a made up world to manipulate him with. So this is interesting that the Heart decided to go mask off and decide to make a world that knows it's fake. It's kind of taking that one thing that Bruce had working in his favor away from Bruce. I quite like that. It's taking that one device or gadget that he would have used in this situation away and just trying to make Batman kill or make Batman forced to fight his sons. Especially now because he can't convince Damian of what's going on and who he really is. Like, Damian is all well aware of what's going on. Bruce asks if he can help him escape, and Damian wants to help him, but first he wants Bruce to understand what's at stake for him. Bruce is shocked to find that Damian has a son of his own, who Damian introduces to Bruce as Alfred, his grandson. So while our child does throw some interesting stakes into the mix, I'm more interested in how Williamson will conclude this, since he has just set up that both Bruce and Damian know that this world is not real. Damian is well aware that he's not real, none of this is real, Bruce is the only real thing here. So, like, what does that do to the stakes, since, like, they both know, so, like, what's the issue? Should Damian just not be like, okay, I'm just going to help you get out of here, and, like, that's it, that's all cool. Like, I guess the idea will be that Damian wants a life, which is something that Bruce actually wants for his son, and it's actually something that we've been seeing in Matt Fraction's Batman as well. Whenever he has conversations with Damian, it's about him wanting to go to college and, you know, meet girls and find a life outside of being a Robin and being, you know, a hero, find like something normal. And it looks like this Damian has got something normal in his life. So I could see there being some sort of friction there where Bruce is torn between the fact that he is going to get out of this world, but this is also a world where his own son, his actual son, is actually okay and is actually normal. So I could see the temptation there, but there's just that hanging thing over like, okay, they both know this isn't real, so like, what's the issue here? I'm really interested to see what Williamson has in store for the finale next issue. DC KO Knightfight issue 3 did a bit of a speed run of a few key things I was hoping the book would take a little bit more time to deal with, like the extended Bat family. But what I really like what Williamson did was with Tim Drake and his version of Batman, and how he operated more as a Sherlock Holmes style Batman, making the detective part more than the superhero part a big part of who he is as Batman. It was ever so brief, but it was a fun thing to witness unfold, and I'd love to see more of that Tim. The meta role of the Heart of Apocalypse acting like a spoiled brat fanboy and getting mad Bruce wants some actual character development and actually to talk and not get into big action set pieces is a great through line in all of these DC tie-ins. They've all been doing that to some extent and building off each other and how they've been tackling it. And I love each writer continues to do that and in really interesting ways. So I'm very intrigued to see what Williamson does to cap this off and where that sends Batman out both into DCKO and then the aftermath of DCKO as well. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.